Hello and welcome to another episode of the OnReviewCast, guys. I'm your host here, Ash, and welcome to On Review, the show where we review your favorite movies, TV shows, all things media, welcome back, guys. Today, we're taking a look at Interview with a Vampire, Season 2, Episode 7, On Review. Let's get into it. So, Episode 7 of On Review of Interview with a Vampire. Just like every episode, guys, we're going to do our episode breakdown courtesy of Fandom. And this episode is called I Cannot Prevent It. It's the 7th episode of the 2nd season of Interview with a Vampire and the 14th episode of the series overall. It aired on June 23rd, 2024 on AMC and AMC Plus, and was written by Kevin Hanna and Roland Jones. Sorry about that. Synopsis. Louis and Claudia are put on trial. And let me say, by good golly gosh, they most certainly are. Man, this, folks, I gotta tell you, this one was pow. This was I mean, it's the episode before the season finale, but pow. This one was a good episode. It's a good episode. I felt a lot of things during this episode, and I just wow. Also wait, guys, just before we jump right into this episode was brought to you by Anomaly Beats. Check out Anomaly Beats, guys. Beats by Ash. Check it out on Spotify and everywhere you stream. It's kind of like lo-fi anime style beats. Yeah, it's pretty good. You guys should definitely check that out. Also, don't forget, guys, on June 1st, the single named Boo from Ash the Anomaly, the artist, is dropping a single called Boo on July 1st, 2024. Guys, listen out for it. It's going to be epic. All right, jump back in. So again, this episode, oh my, this episode was definitely was a runner. It's a home runner for me, guys. I think, and again, like I was saying before, it's the episode before the season finale, but like, come on, like, let me know in the comments what you think about this episode. This episode was smashing, right? This episode was hitting, I believe. And there's so much to discuss in this episode. You definitely got to go over it. We'll try to get everything in before our time runs out here. But I think that first thing, wait a minute here, hang on. First thing I think I want to discuss is the two conflicting stories, I think, of now we get a little bit in this episode. So they're basically put on trial. I mean, like the episode synopsis says. And now, after all this long time of hearing Louis' version of how things went, hearing Armand's version of how things was in his perspective, the bad boy himself, the original blood drain sucker, the original vampire himself, not like original from Vampire Diaries, but the original vamp himself, Lestat de Lioncourt, is here in the flesh to basically. Well, he does a lot of things in these episodes, but like he's here in the flesh, and he's here to say his side of it. Finally, we get to hear Lestat's side of it. And just like we thought, and going through this entire series, guys, just like we thought, and how I thought personally, like, it's a funny thing, and we always see this with like cop shows, and like, or if you watch those videos on the internet where it's like the cop arrests, they have a problem, and the cops go in, and there's like two conflicting sides to every story. It's just exactly what it is. There's always two sides to the story, and none of them, for whatever reason, the perspective, you survey those two people, they never give you or seem to give you an exact copy of what happened in that instance. It just goes to prove that everybody's perspective and everybody's experience in this world and in this life is very much different. You know what I mean? Like, we're all individuals and just got to go through it, man. Live life and live it as such. But anyway, we get the perspective, literally a cartoonish, horrifying, like, reminiscence recap of basically what has happened so far with Claudia and Louis and Lestat. And they basically, for the most part, they were captive for the entire first season, and they tell of basically what has happened so far up to now. And they explain to us, like, you know, everything, because he's like narrating to the audience. So so we start off like when they met and how, you know, he was a pimp and all this other stuff, but it's a very summarized short form. I gotta respect again to the kind of the graphics that they were kind of the projections that they were kind of showing up, and it looks so appropriate. It looks so right for basically the time, right? And it's just so good. Like, one of the things I definitely want to talk about is, so they talk about the issues and the instances when they first met, and how Louis was, and I was just talked about this last episode, how Louis basically accepted the dark gifts from Lestat, and he said he welcomed it, and he decided to, you know, walk in darkness with Lestat. He accepted it. And then they compared it, just like how we kind of sort of did in the last episode too, with how Claudia's, you know, turning into a vampire situation kind of basically went. And we all remember, if you're a fan of the show, if you watched the show, you've seen the show before, we all remember how that went down, right? And this is so good. Oh man, I really enjoyed it. This is so good. Like, we remember exactly how I remember exactly how this you know, this thing went down, and how the series of events, and how they even shot it, what they showed in terms of like the perspective of Louis, of how Claudia was turned into a vampire, and how Lestat was just like, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care, like whatever, like he's just very blasé about it. And you get this new perspective when like Lestat's telling this episode of basically Interview with a Vampire when Lestat turned Claudia, and you can see it's just different. It's just a different person. I don't even know how they really did this, because it's the same characters, the same thing, and they just cut it different, and like it feels different. I think that's what I can't get over. Like, it's the same exact scene. They're wearing the same things, but they showed a little bit things. Some of the actions were actually different. It actually showed like Lestat actually cared, and how he was trying to warn Louis of basically how he forbade him to basically turn her into a vampire, and basically trying to explain to him what this would mean, and how she would basically be tortured as a child being a vampire, living forever in immortality, and etc., and how she would be cursed in a sort of kind of a sense. And they show this where Lestat is emoting a little bit more. He cares. He actually fucking cares about Claudia. And it's just, I found it astonishing that this how different basically this feels. And Louis and Lestat, they cut back to that scene where the recap from season 1, and it's like I said, it's different. But Louis and Lestat are like, it just, the energy feels different. He's less blasé about it. Louis is begging, literally dragging Claudia's body towards Lestat, begging him on his knees to basically turn her, because he couldn't do it. He couldn't turn it for whatever reason. I guess he didn't know how, or I still stand by the, you know, the nature of, they have to accept it. And I guess that somehow, in a way, Lestat basically got her to accept it. And he went to go against all his wishes, against all Louis' begging, and he basically dragged it out of Louis, like of Lestat. Louis basically dragged it out of Lestat to basically turn her, and Lestat went ahead and did commit the sin of turning her. And he admits this on stage, which I found was very therapeutic and cleansing. He admitted that he's basically not perfect, and they talk about it a little bit in this episode too, where he basically goes off script, and he's not supposed to be talking about things. You know, this is basically an attack on Louis. This is supposed to be an attack on them. It's supposed to be an attack on Louis, Madeline, and Claudia. This is not supposed to be involving him, and he's not supposed to be confessing any crime. And I love how, like, just like a good lawyer, Santiago jumps in and is like, you were teased into it. You know, you were ghosted into it. You're not the one on trial here. And I was like, motherfucker, don't. Like, he is guilty as sin too. He has made things if you think about it, he's done all of this. He's broken. He's technically, if you want to, I mean, yes, it's kind of like the law. Like, everybody is responsible for keeping the law. And like in our human realistic society that we live in today, everybody is responsible for keeping the law and responsible for themselves and following the laws at a certain extent. However, at the same time, you kind of you were involved in setting off a certain chain of events from at least from what we understand, because we still kind of don't even know what's real. From Louis' perspective, you kind of set off a chain of events that, you know, described in a way that you basically didn't know. And saying that just now, I found it very interesting going through this that Louis actually admits that he's not sure which version of Claudia being turned is true. So we have these two fucking conflicting stories. And it's like, well, again, it's like kind of like, what do we believe? We have two stories, and like they do a cut back to Malloy, and where Malloy is kind of like looking around the room, looking at Louis, and Louis looking at Malloy. Is like, he's like, you should go with Lestat's version of how Claudia would turn into a vampire. That seems more right. And he starts to agree with him, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Armand has been rooting around and reprogramming his mind, right? Let's not forget that a couple of episodes ago, before this, that Armand has been reprogramming his mind, and they were just fighting about that the last episode, and making him forget and cut out certain pieces. So it's just like Louis' validity within the story and telling his perspective in this interview. I don't know, like I've been kind of saying, like in a couple of episodes, it's shifty. It's shifty, right? I think we can believe some of this went down in some vague kind of way, but like the truth, I think, is a combination of A and B between two different people and two different perspectives, in my opinion, honestly. That's basically what it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think that's basically really what it is. You have a perspective of two different individuals. You put those together, that's the truth. All right, getting back to the actual story, dude. In this episode, they show the fight. They show the fight from season. This is why this episode was so powerful. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm freaking out a little bit, but I'm really passionate about this, talking about like all the TV shows and movies that we love here on OnReviewCast. But like, let's dive into this fight that they have. So they review. If you guys remember back in season 1, they review the fight that before Louis had. When Claudia came back from her long 7-year, break from Lestat and Louis, this is back in season 1, and they had this epic, huge, climactic fight that was like, it's kind of like superheroes smashing through walls, breaking stuff, and just fighting with one another, kind of deal. And I mean, this was I think this is the preseason finale before the season finale of season 1. So this is like coming full circle now. During that fight, we only got to see bits and pieces of that actual fight. But I mean, we got to see the entirety of the fight through this episode. Because there were certain parts of it they were clipping out and they were cutting, and because it was shot from the perspective of Claudia. That's why. If you remember in season 1, it was shot from the perspective of Claudia. I just remember this now. It's from the perspective of Claudia. They're following her around. She's running around this room while basically they're fighting. But now we're getting to see the conversation that Louis and Lestat basically had while they were fighting, the words that were exchanged, how Louis basically was perceived by Lestat in that moment. Like he was basically like kind of like crazy and like laughing at Lestat for wanting him to stay with him and wanting to be alone. And exactly like I said, two perspectives put together. I think that's the truth, and I think that's the lesson here. We're basically trying to go. We're basically trying to go through something that I real quick. Something that I thought that was basically kind of cool through this entire thing. The reason why, and we didn't mention this, I kind of just jumped in with like, let's start big reminiscing about this, all these other things. Those, hopefully everybody's seen this episode, but like the whole concept of like when the reason that they couldn't just leave, right? The writers came up with an idea of like, wow, well, you go into this trial, like they know that at the end of this, most likely they're gonna be killed. So what do? They slash their fucking like tendons at the bottom of the feet, that bone that connects the feet to your leg to your foot. So they basically couldn't walk on stage, and they were in constant pain, and their healing basically they don't get to heal before the show is over. They explain all of this in the show, by the way, and it kind of comes back to the thing. What I was talking about in the first episode was like, you took out the eyes, wouldn't he just regrow the eyes and you would just heal? So I guess in this universe of Anne Rice, they explain it like healing is slow. They heal, but the healing is slow in this perspective in this world. So that's actually the thing. So they sliced off the tendons so they couldn't like walk, or just basically walk or fight back or do anything. And then when they were trying to talk, I thought this was actually so cool because I've never seen like a bunch of vampires do this. Which is to an extent, yeah, they mess in mind tricks. We've seen it on the Vampire Diaries and other shows, and they do like mind things and manipulate other people, and when Buffy and Angel, all that stuff, like supernatural perspective, we've seen that. But we haven't seen is like a joint kind of like coven of vampires like working together to like psychically numb and bind 3 people down together so they couldn't be tied back. Every time Louis or Lestat basically would shout and be like, no, fuck you, you basically, you told the story wrong. You were the one that was saying these incorrect things. You were the one that was doing the evil shit. They would just psychically link themselves together and like attack each and every one of them to make sure that they would, wouldn't be able to talk. Like Louis describes it, they made sure that their jaws were clenched and they were unable to move. Even more so because of the feet. I thought that this was brilliant because, again, in the movie, and I haven't read the books, but in the movie, this is done in a completely different way. There is no sentencing or whatever. This is just something that was newly written, and they wrote and they did this fantastically. Basically, in my opinion. Man, it's just so much, and there's so much in this episode that happens. There's a lot to go over and a lot to discuss. But for the most part, I want to talk about Lestat's, I guess, perspective going through this a little bit. Like, so while Lestat is confessing his, and this is like, I guess we got to remember, because Lestat hasn't seen Louis or Claudia ever since the attempted murder in Louisiana a couple years ago. And now we're just running into him now. So all of the things that were like, that they went through and confronting him, this is the first time. Could you imagine that? Confronting your attacker or your assailant or your abuser after so long. And they feel, I can only imagine if you realistically think about this, they feel that they are owed something. They feel that you should be put on trial. Which kind of crazy fucking shit is that, eh? Like, I mean, like, they feel like they owe you something. So, that's another thing I want to talk about in this episode. I'm going to preface this by saying that, we here at OnReviewCast hold no bigotry or discrimination towards anyone or anything. We accepting and loving of all people of all kinds, black races, brown races, people, and etc. and X, Y, and Z. We welcome all. We don't judge or discriminate or whatever it is. However, I do find it when people try to be disrespectfully inappropriate and show their bigotry live and large and in charge and in action. So I just thought something I thought was funny that I wanted to talk about on the podcast was just like when Louis is expressing, how much he loved Lestat is expressing how much he loves Louis and how he felt so heartbroken when he basically wanted to and he essentially wanted to depart from him, and he wanted to do his own thing, and Claudia wanted to basically leave him. And as he was explaining all of this and how much he loved him, someone from the background screamed, "Sons!" and that. If you didn't hear me, it's FAGS. I mean, you're not gonna actually say the word, but we just had a word. They had that word from the background, and again, no discrimination. I just can't help but laugh because I'm like, what? It was just like an air of like ridiculousness because it came out of nowhere. Like, that has nothing to do with, like, you're focused on the fact that, like, okay, he loves a whole saga of massacre is basically happening in front of your face. But that was a sign of the times. And I'm glad that I don't know if that was intended to be humorous, but I found that fucking funny. I'm sorry, guys, but I found that funny. If you found that funny, or if I'm in bad taste, if you're holding me to bad taste, go ahead and comment, yell at me in the comment section. I'll be waiting for you. Sorry. All right. So Lestat goes on to continue on with this farce, essentially, of explaining how he was, how these how they were basically, how Claudia and Louis basically worked together to murder him, and he was attacked, and he'll pour him, he's the victim, and X, Y, and Z, and all this other stuff, and blah, blah, blah. Which wasn't the case. And it was such to the point where Claudia had to stand up and be like, wait a minute, I was the one who was forced to be put in between the middle of you. I was the one who was always basically chose to be second. I was supposed to be the child in this, and she was the one who was basically being put in the middle. And so much so that she fought through her pain. And I gotta give props to the actress that plays Claudia. She fought through her pain, stood up tall, and was like, hey, no, fuck that, or whatever it is. Essentially the way how things went. I was always the one put in the middle. I was always the one made to choose X, Y, and Z. And I thought that was brilliant. That was very on character with Claudia's, very on brand for Claudia, along with something else she does towards the end of the episodes we're going to basically talk about in a few minutes as well. So something that's also revealed within the whole telling of the story and these creepy ass pictures that they show, just basically a review, they were telekinetically linking one another across oceans. So previously what I was saying about on the cast too was actually it's very impressive that they can talk to one another using the mind gift to talk to one another all over the fucking world. That's pretty fucking cool, actually. And I've never really heard of anything like that happening inside of any other universe. That's cool. That's cool. That's kind of like Cerebros, and like that's actually shows how powerful vampires are in this universe. I think that was actually pretty cool. So before the next couple of scenes, they cut back to Louis and Malloy in the present day, and Louis throws his his bowl of blood into the wall across to where Armand sit, denoting basically that it was hard, and it kind of prepares you for what is gonna come next, right? Kind of, sort of, because this was fucking crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When I was like, whoa, when I saw this. Anyway, this is fucking crazy. So they decided the time to judge between each and three of them has come. And Madeline is told to be brought up first. And at first, the jury was kind of like, well, she's just a fledgling vampire. She doesn't know. She was kind of just brought into this. I would argue that Louis was just kind of brought into this. He wasn't told any of these laws. And that was the argument that Lestat was making with Louis and with the coven as well, that he was vouching for himself. Lestat was basically saying that I told Louis that there were laws against turning Claudia and turning a teenager or a kid into a vampire, and then it was refuted by Louis. Louis was like, did he tell me that? I didn't know if he told me that. Again, his mind's being reprogrammed by Armand. We don't know what's real from Louis. So how accurate are his retellings of this story? Anyway, getting back to Madeline's confession on top of the stage where she starts to, they're basically asking her questions. They're giving her a chance to say, hey, if you want to join the coven, you get to live. If you want to die, go ahead and go be with Claudia. You get to die with Claudia. And she chooses Claudia, which is fucking amazing, because I think the actress said it at the end of the episode too. She said that all Claudia has ever wanted was a companion, and for someone to put her first. And you know what? I resonate with that energy. And if you resonate with that energy, put a 1 in the comment and let me know how you feel, because it's one thing to be like, because Daddy Lou and Lestat were her parents, and it's one thing to receive love and a connection and feel like part of a family in that kind of way, but it's a different kind of love that everybody kind of needs, right? I mean, realistically, we all are people and humanoid. In this world of vampires and stuff, they're humanoid kind of sort of beings. A vampire is basically a human monster, human/monster. And realistically, human beings need, certain types of love. We do need, and I do strongly believe in that. We need familiar love from the family. And I mean, it might not be for everybody, but I think we need it to a certain extent, or a certain level of romantic kind of love as well. I think it's healthy for us. And a normal person, no, I shouldn't say normal person. In a in the majority amounts of people, I think we do need that romantic health as well. We need that romantic love, because it not only gives us a perspective on the human experience of love, of being with a companion, of being within a relationship. It also, it teaches us a little bit about ourselves. I think it does. So having that, or having the experience that, or having a companion, I think is a different form of growth within oneself. If that kind of makes sense, you get the opportunity to grow even larger. And Claudia wants and seeks and deserves to have that, and seeks that out for herself within, Madeline, having a companion, someone that puts her first. And she does not disappoint. She fucking represents for the team. She represents for the fam. And she's like, Claudia is my cousin. That's who I want to roll with. And then they bring Claudia up to the stage. And this was just fucking the fucking chef's kiss. Because this chick, again, kudos to the actress who plays Claudia, because that was some Claudia level shit energy. I felt that. I resonated with that. I was like, that's a vamp move. That's a vampire move. They were like, so the Claudia goes up, and Claudia's there. They're like, is Claudia guilty? And she's like, they're like, guilty. What's her judgment? Guilty. And then Santiago's like, what's her sentencing? Death. And then she pipes up though. She's like, all right. You can see it in her face. She's like, all right, that's cool, whatever. She doesn't say that, but she says it in her face. She looks very accepting of it. And then she asks for a request. If it so may please the court, may I make a request? And Santiago's first like, no. And it's Lestat, surprisingly, that's like, let her have it. I'm just like, wow, you son of a bitch, who's basically kind of caused all of this to a certain degree. I don't know if I'm so mad. Guys, let me know if you're in the comments too. I don't know. Let me know how you feel. It's kind of sort of all over the place. Let me know, because this episode was so good. Let me know how you feel about Lestat. Because I used to think that I even have an episode I've called Lestat is chaotic or psychotic or something like that. He's insane. I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, it might be to an extent because he's a vampire, but how much to an extent now? Because Louis is kind of his recurring. That's what's one perspective of Lestat. And I guess, yeah, we have Armand's perspective as well, that he's not such a great guy, but that's kind of a biased perspective because Armand is in love with Louis, right? Like what the fuck? I mean, are we really going to believe everything Armand's saying? Anyway, let me know how you guys really feel about Lestat, because I'm a little bit on the fence right now. I'm like 50-50. I'm like, is he really that bad? Because if he told them all the rules, and he did tell them all the rules, and he's like, okay, I think he half truth, right? He told them some of the truth, sprinkling them some of the truth. He just left out a lot of the parts. He just said I think he gave them just some information. And if that's the case, I'm not super duper convinced that he's the main villain of this story. Do you know what I mean? I'm like it was more like 80-90% like he's the villain. Now I'm more like 60-40. You know what I mean? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. But Lestat is the one that's like, let her speak, let her say what she's got to say, right? And I don't know if this is out of adoration to Louis, or he just wanted to hear what she had to say, or is this, again, he's not that bad of a guy. I mean, I heard, actually, you know what though? I did hear in the books that he's a son of a bitch, that he does some really wicked and fucked up stuff to Armand. In the books, I'm not gonna go into too much detail with that, but I heard that. But again, it's just a perspective. It's just one. I don't know. You know. Anyway. So Lestat is the one that says, "Let us speak," and this is the dopest fucking thing that happens. And she points to the man. And she says, "Hey, you in the back. That man, the gentleman in the back, asked him to remove his hat." And I'm not gonna lie, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about this too. What he said, because the guy's wearing a top hat, right? And he takes off that hat. I thought I was gonna see a bunny. I don't know why. I thought I was gonna see a rabbit. I was like, "Is that a fucking rabbit on the top of his head?" And it's like, and then I thought it was gonna be like, "Sir," when she's like, "Sir, can you remove your hat, please?" And she was like, "Oh, I did a magic trick. There's a bunny." I don't know why I thought that, or it was like, I placed an egg on top of that man's head. Look inside of your hat or something like that. I was looking for a show, guys. I'm sorry. I was looking for a show. I know some of you are like, "Oh, hell no." I was listening to stuff the other day, buddy. Anyway, okay. Back to it. But she asks him to remove the hat, and he removes the hat. And she's the baddest ass line ever. She's like, yo, I now know all your faces. And she's like, yo, if there's an afterlife, then if you guys probably know, I'm gonna find a way to come back and I'm gonna fucking kill all of you. and I was like, bro, I got chills. I was like, bro, that's a bitch energy. That's some boss bitch energy. I feeling that shit. I was like, I'm on you with that. That's something of vampire was there. I remember I now know all your faces. And I went there, so I was like, I'm gonna find a way, come back, fucking kill all of you. And I was like, wow, like that's. Oh, that was like, even you look around the crowd was like, what the fuck? Was that real? They were questioning. It was like, what was that about? I was like, and then that was mwah. Chef's kiss, Claudia energy. That was Claudia. When they switched actors, I was worried about this chick, but she's been doing a fantastic job in my opinion. But anyway, very on point for Claudia. And then she's like, and then she after the chef's kiss, right? She sprinkles a little bit of sugar on it, and it's like, oh, even sweeter. She's like, and if there ain't an afterlife, I'm gonna find a way to still fucking kill y'all. And I was like, oh shit, that is again, like I said, some boss bitch energy. Like, and you know what? And you know what? Like the actress says, it wasn't a threat. It was a fucking promise, bro. It was a fucking promise. Like, I believed her. I was like, holy shit, she would be the one to do it. I do believe it. It was very convincing. And again, kudos to that. Her last performance, or this being her last performance is basically Claudia, as far as we know. Excellent. Very, very good. Very, very well done. Now, the next couple of sequences I want to talk about is the sentencing of Louis. So they say, what say Louis? And it's like, and then they say, oh yeah, he's guilty, just like a fucking crowd when trying to stone Jesus. Anyway, they're like, yeah, he's fucking guilty. And what's the sentencing? And everybody was geared up, ready to say, and some of them even say pronounce the word death. They want to say death, right? And Armand, of all people, stops this shit. And he pauses them to basically be preventing them all of them from saying this word. Kudos to everybody that was involved in the scene, because they had to all be coordinated in this, and some of them saying it, some of them not. It was very, very good. But also from a supernatural perspective, that idea of Armand stopping a whole fucking crowd of them, very, very powerful, and that shows basically his strength. Because, I mean, we've seen him like stop a room from the people and stop time. We've seen him stop time and do all this other stuff or whatever have you. But it's another thing to stop all of them from basically saying this one word. And what I'm wondering is, like, why did they not, again with this kind of like the phone call interception kind of thing, can they not, when he was broadcasting that command to not say death, could they not have noticed that it was Armand, or was Armand too powerful for that? The rules in this are kind of vague, dude. Like, I mean, like, let me know if you're in the comments if you agree, but I feel like the rules for this are a little like up and down. Like, sometimes it's like legit, and then sometimes it's like, yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so Santiago's like, no, fuck that. There's no death sentence. There's no banishment sentence, because our mom makes them say banishment instead of death. And the thing is, we'll say this about Santiago, he's a showmanship. He gives the crowd what they want. He says that that's not applicable, an applicable sentencing. That's not a reasonable sentencing. So he mind controls everybody. He telepathically communicates with everybody to tell him to bring him downstairs and lock him up basically in the crypt. And they throw a bunch of rocks. They essentially do the I prefer to the Vampire Diaries because that's the most recent vampire series kind of thing. They essentially pull a Stefan or a, because they did an Angel too, where they lock him in a safe and they put him on the water so he won't die, but he'll, like, because he's immortal, but he'll keep drowning and suffering for all eternity. But apparently, like, through this world, you can suffer if you don't. You can die by starvation. I think that's a thing. Yeah, that is a thing, because we were talking about it in the other episode. And when Claudia was like, "This how vampires die? They die by salvation? They don't have enough blood," or something like that. I remember that. Yeah. So that was their plan for him, and they threw a bunch of rocks on him so he couldn't move, and they throw him in there, and they throw him in the heap, and the guy writes his name on the top of the tomb, in front of the tomb. It says Louis Dupont de Law. And I just thought that was very, 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 very apt to their version of, like, I want to say, banishment. And it's also in concert with the actual thing that happened in the movies, guys, which I assume also happened in the book. They did try to lock him up in a crypt as they took Claudia and they took Madeline, and they did their thing with that. And speaking of Claudia and Madeline, I want to talk to and jump to basically the final scene of what is you guys know what happened with Claudia and Madeline. So they asked the crowd, "Oh, what time is it?" "Oh, it's way past our bedtime," because it's like 1 p.m. during the day, and they're about to open the skylight. And this is when Armand basically takes over the telling of the story, which, if I'm thinking about it now, it's kind of sus, isn't it? If you think about it. This is Armand's version of the story. And I mean, from what we've gotten so far in this episode, we're starting to trust Armand a little bit more and his validity and what happens. But at this point, Louis is in the crypt. He's like, "I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. And Armand starts to take over. But Armand has been reprogramming Louis' mind. So this is only the events as far as we know. We could be being lied to here. This is only the events that, as far as we know, that of what the truth is, or what Armand knows to be the truth, because maybe someone got to reprogram his brain. Because it is a shame that we lose, spoiler alerts, we lose Claudia and Madeline through this process, as far as we know. But it's very sad and a very touching thing. But anyway, the skylight opens and the sun floods in, and Claudia and Madeline begin to ash and burn and turn to ash, and they have puddles of like ashes flowing from the body, like we've seen before when a vampire gets basically exposed to the sun. And Madeline basically hugs under Claudia, trying to cling to her for any kind of like shade or survival. But ironically, she's the one that basically goes first. And as they're basically both burning, it's like a very uncomfortable. Let me guys know how you thought about this, what you guys thought about the scene, how you guys felt about the scene too. I was like, whoa, I didn't expect to feel that way. It's a very uncomfortable scene. It's a very uncomfortable scene because I don't even know how they explain it, because I guess that's why Santiago at the beginning of it had the preface of like, everything you see like right from now on is fake. It's not real. But it's like bullshit. How can you explain? They literally looked like in the and honestly, again, praise and shout outs to the guys who did the CGI for this and all the special effects and all this other stuff, especially the music. Oh, the music was so fucking good for this. Everything about this episode was good. So, as they're being burnt, yeah. So as they're being burnt and turned into ash, like, it looks like they have, in a realistic, I don't know if you guys, and again, if you haven't seen this, you guys should watch this fucking show. If you haven't seen it, hopefully you've seen it, me spoiling the shit out of this. Like, it looks like someone poured a giant bucket of fucking acid, or is throwing continuous buckets of acid on them that they are frying. It's not like kind of in Angel where they just kind of go poof, or Buffy, they just kind of go poof, or it takes a while for a vampire to essentially desiccate, because they do have daylight rings inside of the Vampire Diaries, but I forget how their reaction is to the sun. Like, it takes a while, right? Sometimes it takes a while, sometimes not. But this death, of course, being a significant character, Claudia is, this took a while, and she is frying, dude. She is burning, and we can see all of her skin turning to fucking ash, and to her seeing, and we can see her skeleton, the skeleton of her bone, her flesh being literally burned to ashes, and the the reaction from the crowd is just a grotesque one. It's hard to believe that it's not real. And the thing that makes it even sweeter, that they made it, that just so good, this art that they portrayed, that gave so much more feeling and emotion to it. She started to sing that fucking song that she hates, that they made her dress up in. I hate windows when they're closed. You guys know what I'm talking about if you're fans of the show. And she starts singing it as she's frying by the daylight, and Madeline succumbs and turns to ashes, but she's still standing there alone. And as the ashes fall basically from her hands that are also turning to ash, and she's singing this creepy ass fucking song. I don't like windows when they're closed. No, I don't like windows when, and it's just fucking, everybody's looking at her and was like, whoa, this is fucking hard to watch. Because like this, how do you explain that? Oh, this is fake. I don't know. I guess, but it is back in the day. People were fucking stupid. And we could see her hands basically disintegrating, and the last scene of her hair then turned into ash. Oh my God. Like, that was rough to watch. And even Lestat on his face, the shock and dismay on his face watching her be lively executed like that. It was like we were watching the murder of an actual child. That's that gut punch feeling. You were like, because you felt it. And that is why this was truly a fantastic episode, a lovely piece of art and work. Thank you to the creators of Interview with a Vampire who created this. This was amazing. Thank you to the actors. The music, again, was great. Everything about that was amazing. And yeah, that was basically the episode. Guys, this is a long episode than I expected. We're just going to jump into Ash's favorite scenes real quick. Ash's favorite scenes coming in at number 3 was the Madeline, was basically, coming in at number 3 definitely was the scenes that they basically showed for the fight of, Louis and Lestat. Those extra scenes that we got to see from Lestat's perspective, excellent, in my opinion. Coming in at number 2 for sure was, I think, the scene with Claudia when she's like, if there's an afterlife, I'm coming back and I'm gonna fucking kill all of you. That was great. And the last and final scene that was number 1 Ash's favorite scene for this episode was basically the death of Claudia. That last scene, the last shot of what she was looking at, like, with Lestat. Beautiful. That is cinema. That is art. That was great. That was fantastic. Anyway, now we're gonna give the On Review score, and for the first time, folks, in On Review history, this was a thoroughly enjoyable episode. The finale was great. There wasn't any beats that was missing from this. There was a little bit of joking around in it too. There was things that was explained. We're gonna give it a strong 5 out of 5. First time ever on OnReviewCast for season 2, episode 7 of Interview with a Vampire gets a 5. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. Made it all the way to the end. You guys are champions. Don't forget to follow us on our socials, the Facebook, the Instagram, and the Twitter. Thank you guys so much for listening again. Also, check out my new single that's dropping, Boo. Lastly, like I always said at the end of these, be safe, be kind, be you. Take care.